Deputy Prime Minister for her statement in advance sight of it. Although supportive of the principle of devolving power to local areas, we are totally against her plans to abolish every county council and every district council in England, and the unprecedented mass postponement of local elections for at least 1 year. Today is a very worrying.
Angela Rayner just faced one of the most humiliating moments in her political career, holding back tears while MPs laughed and mocked her in Parliament. It was a shocking scene, but how did things escalate to this point? What pushed one of Labour's most outspoken figures to the brink in front of the entire nation? Once seen as a strong force within the Labour Party, Raina is now engulfed in controversy. Her decision to postpone local elections in 9 key regions has ignited intense backlash. She argues it's about reforming local governance, but critics from both Labour and Conservative circles claim it's an attack on democracy, with some even calling it election interference.
Madam Deputy Speaker, well, I've been very clear that Labour is embarking on a once-in-a-generation project to unlock growth in our regions and shift power out of Westminster and into...
Angela Rayner faced a ruthless reaction in Parliament. As she tried to defend Labour's decision to delay local elections in 9 areas, MPs interrupted her with laughter and mockery, turning the moment into a public humiliation. But what provoked such an uproar? The atmosphere in the House of Commons was tense. Angela stood at the dispatch box, ready to justify Labour's move, which many saw as an attack on democracy. She accused the government of making councils more accountable to themselves than to the people, but critics were outraged. The postponement of elections in key regions like East Sussex and West Sussex sparked disbelief. Raina argued it was necessary for a shift of power to local governments, but opponents viewed it as Labour trying to avoid voter accountability. The backlash was immediate. Conservative MPs accused Labour of manipulating the system, and even some within her party seemed uneasy. Nigel Farage and Reform UK slammed Labour for denying 5.5 million voters their say, accusing them of silencing the people. Raina claimed the delay would unlock billions for frontline services, but her critics saw it as a desperate political maneuver. What followed was public ridicule. MPs jeered as Raina spoke about empowering local democracy, with shouts like, "You call this democracy?" and silencing voters. Her arguments fell apart, and her contradictions were quickly exposed. The final blow came when she tried to explain how the delay would save money for local councils, contradicting her earlier statement about unlocking funds. As the laughter grew, Raina's composure cracked. Her voice wavered and she appeared on the verge of tears. It was a disaster not just for her but for Labour. Even her own colleagues distanced themselves, with one MP muttering, "Dictators cancel elections, not democracies." The debacle left Angela Rayner's future uncertain, and the voters in southern England, left without their say, were caught in the middle of a political storm. Devolution is granting more powers to people in local areas, as promised in the government's manifesto. But behind closed doors, backlash within the Labour Party is growing. Senior members are questioning Rayner's judgment, fearing that her actions have damaged Labour's credibility just before key elections. Concerns are rising about Labour's increasing reputation for dodging democratic accountability. Outside Westminster, things are just as bad. Public trust in Labour had already been declining, but this fiasco has sent it plummeting. Voters are losing confidence, not just in Raina but in Labour's leadership overall. Critics argue if Labour can interfere with local elections now, what stops them from doing worse if they gain full power? A tragic reminder of the state of affairs came when a constituent, B, waited for over an hour for an ambulance and sadly passed away, highlighting the chaos under this government's watch. Labour had been gaining ground, but this controversy could halt their momentum. Millions, particularly in the 9 affected areas, feel betrayed. Could this cost Labour the upcoming general election? Raina's speech was supposed to defend Labour's vision but instead ignited a political crisis that exposed a bigger issue. This wasn't just a bad speech, it was a blow to the concept of democracy. If a party in power can delay elections in 9 areas, what stops them from doing more when it suits them? Labour's decision to postpone elections has sparked fears about the integrity of democracy. People want leaders who listen, not those who change the rules to win. The public is paying attention and they don't like what they're seeing. Meanwhile, Labour seems to be hoping the outrage will fade. But political missteps rarely disappear, they pile up. If Labour doesn't course correct, this scandal could haunt them in the next general election. Angela Rayner may be the face of this controversy, but the issue is much bigger. And it's not going away anytime soon. Labour's attempt to defend election delays has backfired, and the trust in the party has been deeply shaken.